Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Logical Buddhist. In today's video, I thought I will go a little bit into detail about what has been biggest help in my Buddhist journey, the one that helped me focus, the one that helped me really get on a strong path towards, let's call it a more joyous living. I'm not going to go into too much detail on every single of these aspects that you see here on the screen, but we'll focus on some of the ones that I think are most critical, especially when starting the journey. So, what you're looking at here is the Noble Eightfold Path. It is, I think, the most critical aspect of living Buddhism today. And I think before we talk about the Eightfold Path, we gotta do a quick excursion on the Four Noble Truths, right? So when the Buddha, and you might have heard about this, when the Buddha was enlightened, he basically said that he now understands the nature of existence, and it comes in four truths, right? The fact that there is suffering that keeps us from being our ultimate, most joyful selves, what that nature of suffering is, right? And I'll go into more detail in a different video on this. The way to that there's a way to overcome the suffering, and then what that way is to overcome the suffering. So those are the four. Basically, in a nutshell, it is about that suffering is caused by delusions we have about ourselves. It is caused by the greed that we have, and it's basically about our state of mind that causes this. And the way out, and this is really important, is the Eightfold Path. So I heard it explained one time, and I thought this was really tangible, is that life is like if you were standing on a burning building, and you never know what door you can open and there'll be fire behind or not. You have to make your way through the high rise out to the bottom. Now, the Buddha made it out, and he said, hey, here's the map I used to get out. There'll be many ways. This is not a dogma. You can get out the door. You can, however you want to do it, like I did it. This is my path, right? So coming back to the Noble Eightfold Path, it is not a dogma. There's no right or wrong here. There is no good or bad here. There's just, these are good guidelines to live a better life. So if you look at them, the one at the very top starts with the right view. And the right view, without going into too much detail, really entails, having the mindset that I just described about, well, I'm going to take this path and I'm going to be diligent about it. So let's go into them into detail, because a few are more important than other ones. Right mindfulness to the left of the screen. Mindfulness plays a very important role in Buddhism, and also when you first approach Buddhism as a novice, because it's a first little practice you can do. Mindfulness is about paying attention to the things you do in the moment. So my teacher told me, it's an easy start to do a walking meditation and be aware of every step and every breath and every muscle movement you do. During some meditations you have, maybe in group sessions or you're on your own, or when you see YouTube videos that instruct you on meditation, they'll often come to a point where you focus on very minute individual things you're doing right now. Maybe a meditation where you attentively listen to the nature around you. And maybe a meditation where you attentively listen to what your body is doing, and you focus on specific muscle groups, or you go through your body. So it's a great start, because what it does, it hones you in and takes the attention away from the past and the future, and really narrows you down to be in the moment. And it kind of plays hand in hand with the right concentration, right? There's a lot of teachers that say concentration is very important, because it also embodies the commitment you give to the moment. And that alone will make the moment at any exercise more joyous. when you're not distracted by a million things, but when you give it your all, whether you play the piano or you sweep the floors or you clean something or you're in a conversation with somebody, giving it your full attention will allow you to focus and calm down and be more mindful altogether. And then again, as you can see, they all play a part. They're very similar, so there's not too much to go into detail here, but the right effort is the same as I mentioned with concentration, that now that you've given it your attention, now you do it with full commitment as well, and not, you know, half effort, so to speak. That goes with the most minute parts, like cleaning toilets, and with the most important ones, like something when you're in surgery or an important job or whatever it may be, or a conversation with a loved one. In every aspect of your life, give it your full effort. Now, right livelihood is interesting because, especially when you talk about becoming a better person overall, right? What are the things you can strip away bit by bit that impair you in your view, that impair you in your doings, that impair you from becoming a person that suffers less? And this goes for the first time. This goes a little bit into the conversation of karma, right? Karma again is a conversation for a different discussion. However, karma basically means how the world reacts to your actions, right? It's all about action and reaction. It's not the Western view of, well, something you did something bad happens to you. Then karma has no good or bad. It just is, and karma creates everything that you are. You can imagine that on a simplified level, that karma is all of your habits, conscious and unconscious. And so, with all the mindfulness, the concentration, the effort, you're actually trying to shift your unconscious behavior to conscious behaviors and control whatever you're doing. So, when we talk about control and we talk about livelihood, there are certain things that you do that bring about bad karma. If you were, an assassin for a living, for the lack of a better example, that actively causes suffering because you're, killing people. So, how far can we strip this back? What jobs are jobs that create goodness in the world? So that's really your own determination. Some people would say, well, a butcher is a good thing. Some people say, well, a butcher is not a right livelihood, right? Certainly, a drug dealer is not a right livelihood, but you have to assess this on your own, right? Let's say you're in a sales position. Like, what type of sales is a right livelihood? Or can you approach it where you cheat your customers and lie to them? And that's a very important distinction to make. And as you go deeper into this, you'll strip away more and more elements until you come to a very clean understanding of what the role in the world should be for you. I'm going to save right action for last. I'm going to skip and go to right speech and then to right intention, right action last, because I think right action might be the most important one, at least personally for me. Right speech is more than just using, quotation marks, bad language, because once again, Buddhism is neither bad nor good. So words are not bad or good. You can say whatever you want. Right speech is really about intent, and this is where intent and speech play together. So your intention about what you're saying and how you're saying it is one thing, and also your conscious decisions of what to say and how to say it. Most our responses, even when we have active conversations, are probably governed by some sort of past habitual situation that made us respond to a conversation in a certain pattern. We want to avoid that. We want to be mindful in our conversation and say the things we want to say. And of course, nobody's perfect, and neither am I in this monologue here. However, it is important to pay attention because you can also cause harm with your speech, just as you can with your actions. And harm, as we know from karma, it's an action reaction. If I have harmful actions, they reflect back on me and become than harmful karma. And once again, intention plays along all of these. We want to make sure that when we say something, it is conscious and the intent is correct, and the intent reflects the view that we have, the right view. And then lastly, one of my favorite ones is the right action. Right action for me was a catalyst. Let's put it that, because it was the first time I could put a pattern of acts or of doing into my daily routines, and really know, it's almost like a moral compass, the closest thing you get to a moral compass in this environment here. So the right actions, there's 5, right? Is that you cannot kill a living thing, right? And we'll talk about this in a second. Cannot lie, cannot steal, cannot do drugs or abuse of any substances in a way, and you should not have any sexual abusive relationships. Now, what's very important, once again, this is not about abstinence or about not doing any of these things. There is no right or wrong. There's just you have to pay attention that these actions could lead to harmful results. And so for a Buddhist, it's important to decide, well, does that mean I should never drink at all, ever? No alcohol, no drugs? Or is it okay to have a drink on a Saturday, right, with friends or something like this? This is completely personal. I, for example, chose the path of no alcohol at all. And slowly but surely, I started to wean myself of other addictive things that attach themselves to me. Because the more attachments we have to things like alcohol or coffee or habits or phones or whatever it may be, the more it dilutes our view and the less we can be mindful and concentrate and have good intent. So the idea is to strip away layers and to be a clean vessel, so to speak. And for me, it was not a clean cut, but it was a clean cut on alcohol, and it started to become a more cleaner cut on other things like sugars and coffees and all those things, because I also at some point I didn't want those to have any dominion over me as well. So those are my high-level thoughts on the Noble Eightfold Path. I hope it gives you a little bit of an idea from a starting point, coming from somebody who has practiced it but has by no means perfected it. So I'm not coming from a preacher or from a monk point of view, but from a person that really tries to live it and tries to be better every day at this. Happy to hear comments and see your feedback on this. And until I see you again, thank you for joining me on my journey, and have a wonderful day.